um, I'll take the high road and you take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland before you. The actual fact was, for most of my life, I've actually taken the high road, and I haven't really been in Scotland before you because I live there. I've lived there, and so if I take the high road, it's like going through the mountain peaks. It's like going through the mountains. It's these passes that seem like totally insurmountable. But actually, I've learned a heck of a lot from doing those things in my life. And if I take the low road, which is sort of like the roads, the base of the valley, which is a lot easier to maneuver, then that could be akin to sort of working with people, teamwork. I mean, I have done a lot of teamwork in my life, played in ceilidh bands, worked in corporations, worked in companies, and really the only way I've been able to do things has been to actually do it with teamwork. And when I think about the number of adventures, especially that I've had over the last year, it's been exponentially more. There's been so much more happening than in the previous years of my life. And Robert Burns, I think I've talked about Robert Burns. He had, in one of his poems, he talks about what would a person give to have the gift to see themselves as other people see them. And I've been doing a bit of reading around that in terms of the business area, and what that meant was that what that means for people is that you can learn so much more from working with people, from perhaps being part of a mastermind, a group of people who will help you in your business see things from different perspectives. Or in terms of music, like for say learning Celtic fiddle, for one-on-one, that's great, but you're only getting my viewpoint of where you could improve your techniques, or where a student could improve their techniques, or what I hear in their playing. Whereas if we're part of a group, then there's the opportunity to listen to what each person is doing, give feedback, and you can also, very interestingly, develop your listening skills, develop your communication skills, and your ability to work as part of a team. And these sorts of learnings wouldn't have been highlighted to me unless I've done what I've done, unless I've been on my journey and been open to learning. So I'm going to play another tune that's called Ye Banks and Braes, and I'm going to sort of hop in between talking about my learnings and playing a tune today. So this one is Ye Banks and Braes. Now, Ye Banks and Braes, for me, talks about the banks of a river, and I imagine that somebody is sitting on the edge of a river, just watching the river flowing, and contemplating life, contemplating perhaps what a really fabulous day they've had or weekend, or just a really special event. And when I think about that, I think of myself being in the flow with something. And what I mean by that is when I watch the river, the river it just naturally flows. It follows a path, and I'd say it's a path of least resistance. It just this and that's there's a guy called Robert Fritz who's actually written a book around this. And but being in the flow of something is just being able to there's really enjoy what you're doing, just really being in the moment. And so when I was playing that tune, the Eubanks Embrace, I really, really enjoy playing that tune. And I think that I love what I do. I really, really love what I do. And this has been something that has even more been highlighted over the past year. Wherever I've been playing the violin. And it could be flying over Mount Everest on a plane, as I did with Yeti Airlines, and highlighted teamwork. If you haven't seen that video on YouTube, go and have a look. It's real. It's not a green screen backdrop. Or playing Celtic fiddle to the elephants in the Sumatran jungle, playing Jungle Bells, which is the Sumatran jungle version of Jingle Bells. And these these things have sort of very much been in the moment. And what I mean by that is, for me to have got the idea to fly over Mount Everest and play a few tunes was because I just spent a couple of weeks in Nepal, my first time to Nepal. This was with Sacred Journey Tours, um, and there was a singing trek being organised, and I'd never been on one before, so I thought I'd go and just suss out what I could do to bring a group of business people across to Nepal in April 2019. So anyway, first night we're in Kathmandu, and we go to a local restaurant, and some of the local musicians are playing, really, really accomplished musicians, and it's really, really interesting to see and experience the local culture. So anyway, there's this uh, beer that's called Mount Everest beer. So I had a bottle of that, and I thought, having a look at Everest, the wording Everest on the side of the glass, or the bottle of beer, and I thought, wouldn't it be just really, really magical to be able to fly over Mount Everest and the Himalayas and play a few tunes on the plane? This is what I thought, a couple of weeks before it actually happened. And then our tour guide, Sanjay, said, well, there's some people going up on a flight over Mount Everest. Would you like to be part of that? And I said, yes, that would be a great idea. So it happened, took the violin with me just on the off chance that I could play in the plane. And guess what? I could. So I did. And then I was talking about the elephants in Sumatra. So in the Sumatran jungle, some of the elephants are looked after by the local mahouts. And these people are really, really knowledgeable about what can, just nature, the elephants coming together, the the with the tourists, and I thought, well, when another great idea would be, let's see if we can raise some more money for the elephants with an impromptu handing around of the hat, and I can play a few tunes. So this is what we tried out. Um, it didn't quite work because a lot of the elephants and everyone else were engaged in just being themselves, elephants having a wash in the local river, some of the tourists coming to wash them. I got showered by an elephant, which was an awesome experience. not when I was playing the violin. But you can see a couple of these examples on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and I just think to have that experience, to say yes to things in the moment, is really, for me, being in the flow. It's like sitting on on the edge of the river with the tune, humming the tune "Ye Banks and Braes," and just thinking, how awesome life is. And or if I go back to last July, um, getting up really, really early in the morning and going and watch the sunset rise on a rock called Airport Mesa uh, in Sedona, Arizona. That is really, really breathtaking. You've got balloons just floating over the skyline. Actually, it's a bit like looking at balloons floating over the morning skyline about 7 a.m. at the moment, from one of the office buildings in Melbourne CBD, Central Business District. But playing the violin, and had the violin with me, played a few tunes, and there were some great conversations that started uh, just from music and being up that early, watching watching the sunrise. And these these conversations led to maybe having a coffee with a couple of people at Starbucks in Sedona, and it's just to hear people's stories, to actually sit down and have a conversation with people, and that was really special. And what that made me appreciate more was that you know we can do all the stuff we really need to do in a day with teamwork. And if I don't try to do all the stuff myself, I've got time to have a conversation with people, to have a non-rushed conversation with people, and I can find out so much. There's so much learning, like from all parties. And an example of that is actually there's the trips that I'm having as part of my MBA of Life program. MBA is Music, Business, and Adventure. Are actually taking place. I think Sumatra is August 2018, and Nepal is April 2019. And both these trips resulted, the starting point, the seed of the idea began through a conversation with an Airbnb host in Australia, one in New South Wales and one in Victoria. Now, can you believe that? So, what I did then was to actually follow through and go to Sumatra and go to Nepal last year and just experience firsthand what it would be like for me to take people on a tour um, of these countries. Just and I have to say, have thoroughly enjoyed both experiences, and real eye openers. Seeing orangutans in the jungle, playing with local musicians, and seeing just. I saw this tree that had something like a 27-meter girth, 27 meters. This was massive, massive tree. This was in the jungle, and I'm standing next to it, and I'm tiny. Or it's like seeing the sequoia trees in California. They've got pretty big bases as well. So the learnings are very much in the moment, and I think they're actually, I'd probably say, is, just being open to things. It's like stepping on the train to go into the city in Melbourne. uh, I might have a conversation with the one of the ticket collectors, or perhaps somebody at the local coffee shop, and all of a sudden it opens up a new world. And this is very, very different from me sitting behind the desk working with spreadsheets and a computer as an accountant. So I think we should move on to the next tune. I'd like to just keep with Robert Burns, and another Robert Burns tune is called Flow Gently, Sweet Afton. So enjoy this one. Now, if I think about Flow Gently, Sweet Afton again, this is Robert Burns talking about a river and the flow of the river. And Robert Burns was actually an inspiration for Abraham Lincoln, one of the presidents of the United States. And what he, and his speeches, the way Abraham Lincoln wrote and delivered his speeches. And Abraham Lincoln also really enjoyed the occasional Burns supper. A Burns supper is a celebration of Robert Burns, Scotland's national poet, and where people eat haggis. There's a toast to the women, there's a toast to the men, and there's a celebration of Robert Burns' life. It's actually a very fun event to be part of. You've got haggis, you've got turnips, you've got potatoes, and I just recently did an interview in Melbourne with Rob's British Butchers. Rob's British Butchers supplies haggis to throughout Australia, amongst other things, and a lot of other small British fare. It could be the sausages, it could be Branson pickle, it could be custard, just things that somebody emigrating from the UK to Australia really enjoys. And we were talking about the viral nature of haggis stories. And Rob was telling me about the story of um, how he had supplied uh, one of the councils on the outskirts of Melbourne was actually holding a Highland Games, and I think this might have been the Berwick Highland Games, and they were wanting to have haggis hurling, and haggis hurling is actually throwing the haggis, like the shot put, and there's a size that the haggis has to be. They've got international rules, and the size of the haggis, the weight of the haggis is 600 grams. I'm not sure what that is in pounds, but um, Rob, people were really a bit worried. The organisers were a bit worried about the health and safety aspects of somebody throwing a haggis, because what happens if the casing came apart? So Rob, I think it was Rob got sealed the haggis in like a cryovac, or like a really, really special casing, so that regardless of how far the haggis was thrown, the casing would still remain intact. And So anyway, they threw the haggis and they had the competition, and this story went viral. It got into the local newspapers, local TV, and then it got national and it went international. And I think there was one of Rob's customers on one of the cruise liners who actually came across a story um, in a newspaper somewhere on the cruise liner, and then somebody else, another customer, going over to Glasgow and finding out about this story in a book in Glasgow, in one of the bookshops in Glasgow. So, um, and really, for me, Flow Gently, Sweet Afton is going with the flow with things. Again, um, Robert Burns said, and this is me coming back on track. I've just been with the flow with the stories. And Robert Burns said that very often the great schemes of mice and men gang after gley, that the plans that each of us has sometimes are there to be refined. As in, um, I go somewhere, I don't know, I go on a journey somewhere, but I forget, maybe I forget my kilt. So, say I'm playing I'm playing at a ceilidh or I'm playing somewhere, and it's actually happened. I've forgotten my kilt, and I just go with the flow. I'm still turning up, and everything might not have gone as planned, but it's still happening. And so, with the idea about the haggis or this, or um, people have sort of run with things, and there's been a really, really wonderful outcome when um, the refinements of the plan have come into place. Um, Perhaps one of those incidents that sort of happened last year was, in fact, this year, um, 25th of January, 25th of January, Robert Burns' birthday, which is like what, 3 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I was over in Sebastopol at Spirit Works Distillery. Now, um, it was really, really quiet. I wasn't quite sure about the mode of transport that I was going to take up to Sebastopol because I was based in Berkeley. So it was probably about an hour's drive. And I ended up using a car sharing scheme, a car from a car sharing scheme, which was similar to something that we have in Australia, like FlexiCar, Go Get, this sort of thing, carnextdoor.com.au. And I got up to Spirit Works Distillery, and I went in, and I I introduced myself, and they actually play music to the whiskey barrels to help the whiskey mature there. And I'm going, right, okay. So I ask about if I can go in and just play to the whiskey barrels, and I did this, but I didn't know what tunes I was going to play. I had all this worked out in my head, and I'd even written it down on paper what I was going to do. And so I just started playing. I just started talking, and did a couple of Facebook Lives and video recordings, and it was such an enjoyable experience. It really, really was. And my plan was also to have taken my kilt with me because I really, really wanted to help Spirit Works Distillery and celebrate Robert Burns' birthday. And anyway, I had a really enjoyable time. So we're actually getting close to me to the half hour mark, and I was going to for this YouTube live, I was actually going to keep it around the half hour mark, just as an introduction. So I thought I'd play another tune now. I'd still like to keep on the theme of Robert Burns and to sort of play us out. I'd like to play "A Man's a Man for All That," and this tune was actually played at the opening of the Scottish Parliament in Edinburgh. And it's a very proud tune, and we are who we are, whether we take the high road or the low road in life, because there are learnings whatever path we take in our journey. And it's just being open to really have some fun with those learnings and know that each situation, each conversation is an opportunity to learn. And if I can just round off that, I'm part of an event with a guest speaker with Christine Slonsky from Germany, and Joyce Steck at an event over the 24th to the 27th of May in Sedona, Arizona. And over this weekend, you're going to be able to take the next few steps to make your dreams come true, to have the opportunity to have conversations with people from all over the US and further afield, including myself and Christine and Joyce. And you're going to learn so much over that weekend that possibly you wouldn't even learn if you didn't come to the event. It might be years before you gain the insights, but you'd also have a really, really good time and some beautiful surroundings. Sedona is really a wonderful place to come on holiday, and this gives your holiday a purpose for you to travel to Sedona. So anyway, my name's Colin MacLeod, the Celtic Fiddle Guru. To get in contact with me, you can email colin@celticfiddleguru.com or private message me on Facebook. And I look forward to speaking again with you soon. So here is A Man's a Man for All That. Bye for now. Bye.